Again to another episode. And this week is all about a question that we got sent in. And it's really prompted, I would say, this conversation and a real desire to go really deep on what we mean by being all in. So maybe you said in January at the start of the year when we, shared our word of the year for this year. I'm sure you had full intention, full of resolve. Maybe you wrote in your journal, maybe, for some of you, even declaring it in how you pray. Maybe you just said it to a friend. But we're here in March. And so I want to ask you something that really requires a complete and honest answer. What has actually changed? I don't mean, what you planned or what you intended. I mean, what has actually concretely, visibly changed in how you live, how you lead, and how you're spending your time since you declared that you are all in. Because the truth is, when we're going all in, it places a whole different kind of demand on us, and you will have to feel it. So if you haven't felt like anything has changed, there is a very high chance that you really truly haven't gone all in. You've possibly maybe just changed your vocabulary. If that's you, then we're going to really take our time today and talk about what actually means to say I'm all in, because I don't think most of us have fully reckoned with it yet. So the question again is, what does what does all in actually mean? Well, if you think of an Olympic athlete in the morning or the final race, they've been training for years, months, early mornings, sacrifice, being really like super disciplined. And it's all because it's leading down to this one race. When she steps on that track, she's not going to hold anything back. She's not running, like, oh, let me kind of like do 80% just in case I fall. Or no, no, no. She gives it everything she has. That is what all in looks like. Total commitment, nothing in reserve, every resource pointed in the same direction. In your life and in your leadership, all in is the same. It's this decision to stop straddling, to really stop keeping, one foot in the life, like, life how I know it and life that I'm called to. It's essentially stop managing your risk so, uh, minutely to the T that you actually never get to move, because I mean, everything about life is a risk, getting out of bed, brushing your teeth, going down the steps. So we're not like risk is not removed from our life, it's part of our life. All in doesn't mean, burning yourself out completely because, I've got to be committed. No, that's actually just self-destruction, right? Because when you're burnt out, you know, not much, probably wouldn't be much nicer to be around. It would be a lot harder to kind of focus, think, move things further forward. So that's not what about. It also doesn't mean that, like, you don't take wisdom or counsel or you just ignore it because, I've got to be bold. No, I just think that's recklessness. It's also not about I've got to do the same, more of the same. I've got to do more of the same things faster. Keeping busy. Keeping busy but not being productive doesn't change anything. All in means that you're fully in alignment, your time, your energy, your money, your resources, your attention, all pointed in the same direction. When it comes to your commitment, you're really fully committed to who you have been called to be. Stepping out of your comfort zone and say, you know what? I know God created me for a purpose and for something incredible. and I'm determined and committed to becoming that person. It's also really truly trusting God with the outcome whilst you're taking responsibility for the process because we all know that faith without works is just it's just nothing, right? So it's really, really important that as we're trusting God, that we're also taking full responsibility and ownership of the pieces where we're responsible for. Now, all in from a biblical standpoint, it's just a complete reorientation of your mind, your priorities, your daily choices, all moving towards who God says you are, what He's called you to be. Like we really seriously need to stop imitating the ideals, the opinions of the culture around you. And you have to truly be inwardly transformed by completely and totally reframing how you think. That's the only way you can be empowered to fully understand your God-given purpose and His will for you to really live like a really incredible life. Total reformation, not partial, not convenient, total. Total, total, total. So what is at stake? If you stay half in, you're gonna get half result, half impact, half everything. If you go all in, also on the wrong things like just being busy, performance, other people's agendas, well, ultimately you will arrive at the end of the year completely exhausted, completely empty with nothing to show for it. If you go all in on the right things, though, who you're called to be, growing yourself as a leader, building, relationships that matter, I promise you, you will look back on, this year, 2026, as the year that truly shifted everything. The cost of going all in is very real, but the cost of staying half in is even more higher. The only difference is though, you'd pay it a little bit slower, slowly. It would be in regret. It would be in missed opportunities. It would be that, quite aching heart of knowing that you are actually capable of more, but not able to get there. So I think being all in really truly matters in leadership for us because having leaders can produce all in results. It's as simple as the people that you're called to lead, like they can feel it, whether the leader is fully present or that you sort of, half in. I promise you, they can sense it. The difference between somebody who's actually building something that she truly believes in and someone who's managing, just her way through, I think we can all tell the difference between the two. So there are some consequences for, staying half in as a leader. That is, your team would reflect your level of commitment right back at you. You would most likely be making decisions from fear of loss rather than from a place where you're really clear on your vision. You would also guaranteed attract having people because like until like, right, we attract who we are as leaders. And on the same side, there's a huge reward for going all in. When you lead as an all-in leader, my goodness, it's like that it's impossible to manufacture. It's really like something that can only come from within. And people will follow you, your team will follow you without necessarily being asked. It becomes so much more easier to lead. You would most likely be making decisions a lot more faster with much clarity because you fully know what you're building and the why, because you're an all-in leader. And because the kind of leader or you become the kind of leader that others want to learn from. So the moment I stopped, trying to like be half in, whether it was in, friends or, people that I was mentoring or building nations of women, everything changed because I realized, and this was I'm so grateful for my mentors, and Dr. Harding particularly, who would, constantly remind me, Tina, the cost of being having far, far, far outweighs the cost of being all in. So the other thing though, going all in does not guarantee that everything's going to be easy. Far from it. But one thing that I can personally testify and tell you and assure you is that going all in does guarantee a purposeful road and journey. Right. It makes everything become so much more worth it. So some reality check I think is important at this point, to help you identify signs. Maybe are you half in or are you all in? And just be honest. If you're running or, walking the dog or whatever it is, I want you to get back and listen to this part again. Get a pen and paper, write the questions down, and honestly answer them. The other thing is that a lot of the time, some of the listeners will be, I didn't know. So please hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with other people, so that they can also be able to get this on a weekly basis. And it just makes it so much more worth it as we, spend week in, week out producing this podcast for you and many other listeners around the world. So let's dig right in. Signs that you might be half in. Be honest. Remember, number one, you have a vision? Yes, no. Okay, if yes, the next question from that is, does your diary or your calendar reflect your vision? Hmm. Question two, we all have a calling. We're all created for a purpose and a reason. But are you still wanting or waiting perhaps for somebody to come and validate it before you actually begin to run with it? Answer that honestly. Thinking about 2026, declaring, because that's what we're all declaring here in Nations of Women, is that this is our year to be all in. Question I have is your daily habits identical to last year, or has your daily habits actually changed and reflective of where you're going this year? Right? I know it's tough, but we've got to answer these questions. Now, if you have been inspired by this podcast, would you do something differently by Friday? We're right in the middle of March. Where are you at in terms of, your posture, your heart, and your focus and your determination as being an all-in leader? All in is not something that you feel like, once or one time. No, you walk with it, you breathe it, your habits, everything is pointing in that direction. It's something you choose over and over and over again every morning, every week, every time. And especially when the cost becomes real, you still choose it over and over and over again. So now you think about your business. I'm sure as business owners or entrepreneurs, our business or building our business is going to be right there at the top of the list. It's a priority for us. But to be all in also requires that you invest in your own development. So, question for you, how have you been investing your own development in these past 2.5 months of this year? Same with your habits, same with your health. How is your schedule? Is it making space for it, for rest? Same with your family. How are you running on that? Same with, who you are yourself. Are you fully invested in being all in? Right. That's a thought for you. Some questions I think would be really important for us to address this week. And I'm going to share them with you. And again, I want you to take time, write these down, and think through them, right? That's the purpose of the weekly podcast, is to really equip you with tools and help you to build better mindset, better habits, and really be invested in yourself as a leader. So, where in your life are you still half in? I don't mean where you wish you were fully committed, but actually, where you actually holding back right now? Where in your life are you so half in? Where are you actually holding back right now? Question two, what is the cost you're afraid of paying if you go all in? I want you to write it down, name it, because until you name it, it's going to be like this fear, like a ball, fear that hangs over you, and it can really, truly, overwhelm you and make it hard for you. Three, when you look your life back over in December of 2026, if you went genuinely and truly fully all in from this moment, what would your life look like in 2026 December? Final question, what one decision, if you made that today, would tell you yourself and would also tell God that you're really serious about being all in? So, some challenges. I want you to do an all in audit. Look at your calendar, your bank statement, your daily habits, just even from the last 2 weeks. Write them down honestly. Does what do you spend your time on, and what you spend your money on? Reflect. What do you say your priorities are? If not, then there is a gap. What is that gap? Challenge two, identify one area of your life where you most definitely have it. Write it down. Then write one specific non-negotiable action you will take this week to move forward, fully committed in this area. Three, write your all-in declaration for 2026. I don't mean a wish list. I mean the decision you made that I am all in on dot dot dot, which means I'm choosing to dot dot dot, letting go of dot dot, putting where you're going to see it every single day. Or better still, emailing in to us, share with us. Four, and finally, share this episode with somebody else that is also going all in. You might make a difference to them, right? So the all-in audit is very, very important. Your calendar from the last 2 weeks, your last month of spending, highlights everything that reflects your stated priorities in one color, everything that contradicts them in another color. What you see will tell you exactly where you actually are. So it could be red and green. So anything that reflects your priorities, highlight them green. Everything that contradicts your priorities, highlight them in red. Right. So that's I think it's really important that if you realize if you can do this all-in audit, I promise it would make such a tremendous difference to your life. So a quote for you, going all in does not mean you don't have any fear. It just means you're choosing purpose over and over and over again. And likewise, having declarations or declaring, what, hey, I'm an all-in leader without actually making decisions that, you know, align with that, it's just noise. All in is a choice you have to and will need to make every morning. You cannot get an all in result from a half in life. As a final food for thought, here is one thing I know about women who change the world. They're not the ones who didn't have a doubt or perfect conditions, unlimited resources, guaranteed income. No, they just made solid decisions. They decided and they stuck with it. The cost was real, but you know what? It's like, hey, I've made a decision and I'm going to stay on track. The road and the journey is hard. It's true. But what would you choose? The hard road or the comfortable dead end? No, you don't play safe. You don't hold back. You go all in because that is who you're made to be. 2026 is the year for you to be all in to yourself and to the God who called you and created you and gave you that purpose. So, what are you waiting for? If this episode has challenged you, I think the best thing you can do right now is subscribe to the Nations of Women podcast, whether, whichever platform you're listening to, so you never miss a Tuesday again. And if it's helped you, I really want to encourage you to leave us a review. It takes less than 2 minutes, and it really helps other women who need this to find us. Again, head over to Nations of Women to find out a bit more about us, who we are, what we're building, and what is coming. And if there's any question you want us to address on any of our episodes, then get in touch directly from our website as well. So this episode might be something you've been quietly avoiding. I don't know, but I promise you, if you will stop avoiding facing, stop avoiding being half in and being fully in, like you said back in January, your life would be completely, completely different. So again, I'm so pleased you're here. And it's just the women we lead with discipline. All in is who we are. It's not the feeling we have. It's not the mood that we stay in. It's not like, hey, we've been ready. No, it's like you make the decision, you renew it tomorrow, you choose it over and over and over again every single time. So if this episode has challenged you, then I know that you're called to be an all-in woman. So until next week, remember the world needs you. The world and the woman you're called to be is already there. It's inside. It's waiting to be fully released. Until then, stay faithful, stay focused, stay all in, and see you again next week.
And that's all for this week.